26 opposition parties, Dr. Trivedi, are in Bangalore today and tomorrow. They are saying numerically, arithmetically, वो बीजेपी से बड़ा है और ज्यादा है. इसको आप कैसे टेक ऑन करेंगे? Arithmetically तो numbers तो ज्यादातर तो opposition के पास ही है.
Whatever is happening in Bangalore, it is not happening for the first time. If you remember, just before the previous election in 2018, the same scenario was there. Rather than a much bigger scenario was there. So many leaders were there, if you remember, joining hands and giving a big rally. And Bangalore is known for aerospace industry. So their plane took off, but it landed nowhere. And finally what happened is dil ke tukde hazar hue, koi yahan gira, koi wahan gira. So finally, I just want to say, when they are doing in Bangalore, it's having a much more significance. Because Bangalore is considered to be the intellectual capital of India. And those younger generation, the millennium generation, who are intelligent enough to understand that who is going to lead the country on which road. Prime Minister has given a very clear, crystal clear view for the next 25 years. The Amrit Kal, that how we want to make India #1 economy of the world with our heritage, pride of our heritage, strong and robust national security. On the other hand, I would just like to say, previously, they met in Patna on 23rd of June. On the same day, 23rd of June, Prime Minister was there in America. And Prime Minister was busy in ensuring various defense deals, whether it was GE engines to be manufactured here for the fighter planes, or semiconductors, or Predator drones. So he was there to have the defense deal to uphold the security of the country, and there was also a defense deal in Patna going on. That was defense deal of whom? To cover up the corruptions of one another, to defend the corruptions of one another. And you remember who was there? वहाँ पे थे कोयला घोटाले वाले भी थे, 2G वाले भी थे, शराब घोटाले वाले भी थे, भर्ती घोटाले वाली बुआ जी भी थी, और the chairmanship was of the Chara घोटाला. And so that was another defense deal, to defend their corruption and defend their family. But उनकी जो strength है वो उतनी ही मजबूत थी जितनी वो पुल की थी बिहार के जो गिर गया, और अब तो उनका मांझी भी छोड़ के चला गया. So I think the fate of their path is very much visible in contrast to the path shown by Prime Minister Shri Modi.
So Manish Tewari, for the voters of India, the BJP, it's very clear. You have one leader in Mr. Modi, their policies are very clear. What is it that the opposition is offering? Let's start with the question of leadership. Who is the leader of this bunch of 26 parties that have come together in Bangalore, and what do these parties stand for?
The essence of any democracy is change. Change itself brings about a renewal, regeneration and rejuvenation of the democratic experiment per se. So therefore, the first principle of any functional democracy is that it should be amenable to a regular change of government. It keeps the lifeblood of democracy pulsating through the veins of the republic. Number two, when you talk about alliances, we are talking about an alliance meeting which is taking place in Bengaluru. There's another alliance meeting which is taking place in Delhi, right? So therefore, there are 30-odd parties which are coming together under the NDA rubric in New Delhi tomorrow. Yeah. So therefore, there is a juxtaposition of two contrasting alliances. And if the BJP would have been all that comfortable as they claim to be, there wouldn't have been this panic, and panic almost bordering on paranoia, in order to try and create or recreate the National Democratic Alliance, for which they have not cared over the past 9 years. So, to answer your question, the opposition which is coming together is doing so in order to offer a principled democratic alternative to this country. I do not want to get into the hyperbole of what my dear friend Mr. Sudhanshu Trivedi just articulated. Suffice to say that over the past 9 years, all the charges that they hurled at the erstwhile UPA, how many convictions have been there? He talked about 2G. Has there been a single conviction in 2G? He talked about various other things. You see, it is very, very easy to level allegations. It's extremely easy to go ahead and register FIRs against people because in this country, the process is the punishment. But ultimately, does all that vendetta, does all that persecution really stand in a court of law? And the answer is very self-evident. In the past 9 years, because it was all built on a castle of sand, it has not stood in a court of law. So essentially, the opposition has come together to offer an alternative. There would be a common minimum program. There would be a leadership which would manifest itself. And you would see as we go towards 2024, or as we travel on the road to 2024, a lot of questions that you are asking would self-evidently crystallize.
So, Sudhanshu ji, just one example. Manish Tewari just said that, what is the desperation to revive the NDA? Kal ko NDA ka meeting hoga yahan pe. Let me just give the example of jo Maharashtra mein hua. What was the need to take on Ajit Pawar on board till the other day, till a few weeks ago? You were accusing Ajit Pawar of corruption. वो जो video था चक्की पीसिंग वाला वो तो viral भी हो गया. Is the BJP becoming whatever it is accusing the Congress of having become?
Whatever has happened in Maharashtra, this was a solely internal matter of the NCP. And the same thing happened in Shiv Sena. The problem is, as my dear friend Mr. Manish Tewari was saying, he was asking about the democracy in all those parties. They claim that they are the champions of democracy, but unfortunately they are those parties who represent dynasty in their own party. No, not even an iota of democracy. It is to be decided firmly right from birth that this person will lead the party. And then they become the champions of democracy. So the problem is, हमारे यहाँ पार्टी को परिवार समझते हैं और वो परिवार को पार्टी समझ लेते हैं, and here starts the problem. And that's how Shiv Sena entered into the problem. That's how NCP entered into the problem. So it is their solely internal matter. And as far as the others are concerned, I would like to quote that the first coalition government which completed its full term was led by BJP during Atal Bihari Vajpayee's tenure. So we have created a paradigm shift in the Indian politics. Before that, none of the coalition government, neither in the state nor at center, was able to complete the term. And the first government, other than Congress, who got a clear majority on its own, it was in 2014 and again in 2019 by Shri Narendra Modi. So again we have created a paradigm shift. Another paradigm shift was, despite getting a clear majority, both the time on its own, we have taken all the allies with us with a proper respect. No, and we have not left anybody. They have left. And whosoever has left us, you can see.
The reason why people are asking this question is, yes, Mr. Modi got an unprecedented mandate 2014 May, then 2019 May. If you're so confident about 2024, तो फिर अकाली दल के साथ क्यों चर्चा हो रही है? I think TDP के साथ भी चर्चा हो रही है. Are all these parties going to come back to NDA? Doesn't this show that आप numbers पे confident नहीं है?
देखिए, एक बात बहुत क्लियर है, जब मोदी जी के नेतृत्व में भारत बहुत क्लैरिटी के साथ आगे बढ़ता हुआ दिख रहा है, तो बहुत से लोगों को लगता है कि नाउ दिस इज द वे वेयर इंडिया इज डेस्टिन्ड टू बी. एंड दैट्स हाउ मोदी जी हैज क्रिएटेड अ सिचुएशन इन विच फॉर द 3 consecutive years he has been rated the #1 leader in all over the world. I just want to say one example. Can you quote a single country in the world in which today Russia says that India is our traditional ally, and US says that India is our strategic ally? It has happened only under the leadership of Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi. Can you quote a single instance in which during the Yemen war, the both warring factions agreed to stop the fighting for 2 hours, for which the Indian planes can go? So from international level, and can you quote a single instance in the entire history of the country when 48 crore people have got Jan Dhan account? Another example I would like to give, if 4 crore people have got Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana. Out of 4 crore, in 3 crore, women are having the joint ownership of the party and the joint ownership of the property. And in most of the cases, they are only belong to the poor classes. I can say with challenge, कि इससे पहले कभी 3 करोड़ गरीब औरतों के हाथ में मालिकाना हक नहीं होगा कि कागज पे रजिस्ट्री उनका नाम हो. This is the change which has been brought.
So Manish Tewari, let's talk about, it's the year of India's G20 presidency. We've had over 100 plus meetings that India has chaired as part of the chairmanship. You've just seen the kind of reception that the Prime Minister received first in America, then in France, at a time when India's stock itself seems to be going up and up in the world. And credit where credit is due, some of it goes to Mr. Modi's leadership. What is the opposition offering in terms of an alternative? What is it that the people of India, you're offering to them as an alternative?
Let me answer Mr. Trivedi and the questions that you've asked in a chronological order. Sudhanshu ji recounted some of the successes of the so-called coalition arrangements they've been a part of. Let me recount some of the failures. It starts with the SVD alliance in 1967, the failed Janata experiment in 1977, the failed National Front experiment in 1989, and of course the failed experiment of 1996 and 1998. And in fact, at a point in time when there used to be ideology in Indian politics, in fact, the BJP or its earlier avatar, the Jan Sangh, surmounted that very skillfully to even align with the communists in their quest for anti-Congressism. So therefore, while he may have recounted some successes of coalition, those successes came after a long string of failures. So therefore, that is just setting the historical record straight. Number two, insofar as natural ally and strategic ally is concerned, I think we broke that paradigm way back in 1989 itself. The fact remains that when the global reset was initiated by the then Congress government in 1991 after the collapse of Eastern Europe and the erstwhile Soviet Union, we were able to very skillfully actually reach out and reset a relationship with the United States of America while maintaining the traditional relationship with Russia, not only alive, but actually we rejuvenated it periodically over a period of time. The difficulty with the BJP is that it feels that history started on the 23rd of May 2014, but actually history started a long time back, because the fact is that most of these things, especially when you talk about statecraft or diplomacy, they are a continuum in themselves. And you've had governments, which have continuously built on it. You talked about the US relationship. Now, the reset with the US was actually initiated by Mr. Jaswant Singh under Mr. Vajpayee's government when he had that dialogue with Strobe Talbot. The NSSP was done by the then NDA BJP government. Dr. Manmohan Singh's government, picked up the ball, and you had the Indo-US civil nuclear deal, a paradigm that you've not been able to reach ever since then. And so therefore, in certain areas, governments, rise above partisan differences and ensure that national interest is kept on a premium, it is kept on a priority. So therefore, to try and nitpick and score brownie points in areas where every government has contributed, I do not think is a very fair way of approaching something as serious as national security, diplomacy and statecraft. To finally conclude and answer your question, as I was earlier pointing out, the opposition is going to offer an alternative vision for both the development of India, which promotes equity, which reduces the gross income inequality which has become the swan song of the NDA BJP years over the past 9 years. What you have seen is actually a concentration of wealth in a very, very few hands, with a lot of people either being put on dole or not having opportunities to be even able to keep their body and soul together. So therefore, the fundamental principle where democracy thrives is when you have income equality. And income equality, to ensure that the fruits of economic development reach the last person in the last row, would be one of the priorities. And as we go forth, you will find a whole alternative program of development, a whole alternative vision for this country being articulated and put before the country.
Okay. Sudhanshu ji, for the BJP, historically, the three biggest issues were Ram Mandir, Article 370 abrogation, and of course UCC, the Uniform Civil Code. UCC की बात काफी चर्चा हो रही है आजकल, but ना कोई draft है, ना कोई basis है, and how many people will you exempt? You will exempt the tribals, you will exempt the Northeast. तो क्या है UCC को लेकर आपका क्या है? What is your vision? What are the details? What are the modalities?
First, I would like to answer just in brief what he has said. He said that in 1991, when the Eastern Bloc has crippled, and then at the time, Government of India has changed. I would just like to remind two instances. They were saying that they were having equally good relation with the Russia and America. 1994, Russia backtracked, giving us the third stage cryogenic engine. ये नबी नारायण वाली मूवी उसी कॉन्टेक्स्ट में थी. In 1995, Narasimha Rao government was all set to perform the nuclear test, and it was America who stopped. So this was our equal relationship with Russia and America. And today, we are getting S-400 from Russia, and first outside NATO country to all set to get Predator drones. So that is how we have dealt equivalent balance with them, and that's how. And one more thing, I will agree to him. So previous governments have also done several very good steps, like the present transition of the economy was done by Narasimha Rao government, shedding away the Nehruvian economy. But unfortunately, those who have done significant work, whether it was Sri Lal Bahadur Shastri, who started the nuclear program, and Sri P.V. Narasimha Rao, who has transformed the economy, were not given due legitimate dignity which was to be given to them. Now coming on these three issues. ये तो आपने बहुत अच्छी बात कह दी. These three issues were in our agenda since our previous avatar, Jansangh 1951, and you cannot quote a single manifesto of Bharatiya Janata Party in which all these three things are not there. So ये इस बात का प्रमाण है कि we have never changed our stand on our basic point, and with due humility I would like to ask, quote a single political party. हमने 72 साल में कोई स्टैंड चेंज नहीं किया. आप बताइए कोई पार्टी जिसने 72 साल में 4 बार अपना स्टैंड न चेंज किया हो on the core issues, like on the issue of Ram Temple. If you remember, it was Sri P.V. Narasimha Rao as Prime Minister had said, हम बाबरी मस्जिद दोबारा तामील करेंगे. And Mulayam Singh Yadav as Chief Minister said, बाबरी मस्जिद दोबारा तामील करेंगे. Now they said, no, we welcome, everybody accept that the Ram Mandir should be there. So this is the change. But we were standing against the odds, and we are standing here also. We said 370 will be abrogated. We have done it. If you look after 2019, when we got certain strength in Rajya Sabha, whether it was triple talaq, halala, Hajj subsidy, several things have happened. We tried to make India a truly secular country with an equal opportunity to everybody. On the lighter note, मैं कहना चाहूँगा, after the demolition of the disputed structure in 1993 elections of 4 states, we were unable to form the government in Uttar Pradesh. SP, BSP, Congress together managed to form the government, though we were the biggest party. तो उस समय एक नारा लगा था, मिले मुलायम काशी राम, हवा में उड़ गए जय श्री राम. So at that time, one of our leader has said कि this slogan is being raised because your unity and strength, you were not able to portray your full strength and unity. The day you will portray the full strength and unity, उस दिन जो कहते हैं कि मिले मुलायम काशी राम, हवा में उड़ गए जय श्री राम, उस दिन नारा हो जाएगा क्या मुलायम क्या काशी राम, सारे बोलेंगे जय श्री राम. और आज आप देखिए, you name a single political party which is opposing Ram Temple, And just 30 years back, you name a single political party other than BJP who was supporting Ram Temple. So that's how the history is created. हम वो नहीं है जो हवा के साथ बहते हैं. वो मोदी जी के लिए कहना चाहूंगा, अंगार हार उनका जिनकी सुन हाक समय रुक जाता है, आदेश जिधर कर देते हैं इतिहास उधर मुड़ जाता है.
Manish Tewari, on UCC, you've tweeted about this as well. What is the case for not having a common set of laws for civil matters like marriage, divorce, adoption, etc., for all Indians irrespective of their religion?
You see, the difficulty with the BJP is that it pays lip service to the Uniform Civil Code. It does not understand what a Uniform Civil Code means. If you read Article 44 of the Constitution, it talks about a uniform civil code. It doesn't talk about a common civil code. There is a fundamental distinction between a uniform civil code and a common civil code. When Dr. Ambedkar, if you go back to the Constituent Assembly debates, introduced Article 44, which is a non-binding directive principle of state policy, the wording that was used was that the state shall endeavor to have a uniform civil code throughout the territory of India. What does that mean? It means that there will be certain egalitarian principles which will underpin every personal law with regard to inheritance, with regard to gender equity, with regard to succession, with regard to property rights. And in fact, it was the UPA government between 2004 and 14 which really brought about progressive legislation which ensured gender equity, especially with regard to inheritance laws. And so therefore, if the BJP was so very clear about what Uniform Civil Code means, they won't be going around saying that we'll exempt the tribals, we'll exempt the Christians, right? So if you're going to exempt the tribals, you're going to exempt the Christians, why will you not exempt the Muslims? Why will you not exempt the Sikhs? Do you think the Sikh community is going to accept that the Anand Marriage Act, which they fought for, and we had amendment in 2012, that is going to be abrogated and replaced by a common law? And in any case, you have a voluntary Uniform Civil Code in this country. And that voluntary Uniform Civil Code is the Special Marriages Act 1954, read along with the Indian Succession Act. So it is not as if India does not have a Uniform Civil Code. That is a voluntary opt-in. Unfortunately for them, a Uniform Civil Code is really a dog whistle. I can elaborate on that, but we are running out of time. And two more things which I would like to say. The story with regard to Article 370 is not over. Since I'm counsel in that matter and the Supreme Court is going to start hearing it from the 2nd of August on a daily basis, till the time the court does not adjudicate on the constitutionality of it, the story with regard to the illegal abrogation of 370 and for the first time in the constitutional history of India, turning a state into two union territories, that story is not over. What happened on 5th and 6th of August 2019 in both houses of parliament was a constitutional travesty which is being adjudicated. And on Ram Mandir, let me finally say, Dr. Trivedi talked about changing stances. Our stance has been very clear from day one. We said that the matter will be adjudicated by the highest court and whatever the court decides will be acceptable. And that's exactly what we have done. So therefore, it's very easy to really make these hyperbole allegations of trying to run with the hare and hunt with the hound without really getting into the nitty-gritty of it. I would really commend to the BJP that they should revisit what exactly do they mean when they talk about a Uniform Civil Code.
Okay, we have 4 minutes.
Can I
quickly, sir? Yeah.
Quickly. I just quoting his leaders. Jawaharlal Nehru in 1956 giving an interview to a Hungarian journalist, Timur Monde. He is written in his book, Nehru's View, India and Others. He talks about common civil code. And then Nehru said confidently, I have decided for Hindus, now they cannot have two marriages, succession and others. Then he asked, what about the Muslims? The word of, I cannot dare to think about that. It is the word I cannot dare. Then he asks, why? Because I want that they should remain with their religious beliefs and others. Then he says, if the Turkey can do, why can't you? He said, no, no, that's a Muslim country, but we are a Hindu majority country. We do not want to touch. It is Nehru. And now during the Rajiv Gandhi time, when Shabano case came, Arif Sahab himself has told it that one of the cabinet minister of Rajiv Gandhi government has asked him, why you are opposing Shabano case? Then he told, because I am thinking that this is taking Muslims backward. So he was saying that the cabinet minister of Rajiv Gandhi government said, Muslim gutter mein pade rehna chahte hain, to unhe pade rehne do, tum kyun unki chakkar mein pad rahe ho. And that's how I would just put a data in 1931 census. The rate of literacy of India was 8 to 10%. In Uttar Pradesh, the most literate community of the Hindus, it was a caste-based census. Brahmins were having 15% and Sayyid Muslims 24% rate of literacy. But in 67 years, they have come down to the stage of Sachar Commission and this. इसीलिए कहते हैं ना, किसी को किसी की मोहब्बत ने मारा, किसी को किसी की अदावत ने मारा, शराफत अली को सेकुलर सियासत ने मारा.
Manish.
Well, I have nothing to say. He's just validated the charge of a dog whistle. If the BJP is so confident about a uniform civil code, let them come with a draft of a uniform civil code. You see, ultimately, when you talk about a uniform civil code, are you going to do away with the entire concept of an HUF, the Hindu undivided family, right? Or are you then going to allow a Muslim undivided family, a Christian undivided family, a Jain undivided family, as taxing mechanisms in your tax laws? Are you then going to ensure that the exceptions which have been built into the Hindu Marriage Act itself to allow for certain customary marriages to take place, which do not invalidate the marriage or the whole concept of spinda marriages, are you going to do away with that? So therefore, it's very easy to do this dog whistling. I challenge the BJP to come up with a draft of a uniform civil code, which is actually uniform in character. If they could have conceptualized a draft, their leaders would not be going and saying that we are exempting the tribals, we are exempting the Christians, we are exempting X and Y. The simple reason for that is that they also know it is not possible to have a uniform civil code, and that's what I'm saying, that it's a dog whistle. And what Mr. Trivedi unfortunately said, or Dr. Trivedi said, actually validated that dog whistle.
All right, one final word. I have less than 1 minute left, so 30 seconds each. In one sentence, why should India vote for Mr. Modi and for the NDA? And to Manish Tewari, why should India vote for the Congress party or the opposition? Sudhanshu Trivedi first, in one sentence.
स्वप्न देखा था कभी वो आज हर धड़कन में है, एक नया भारत बनाने का इरादा मन में है और बढ़ रहे हैं हम प्रगति की ओर उस रफ्तार से, कर रहा है विश्व भी हमको नमन उस पार से.
Manish Tewari, in one sentence.
In one sentence, very simply, for democracy to survive, change is important. Change is the essence and the lifeblood of democracy, and that's why in 2024, a change is important. It is imperative, it is necessary, and it will happen.